Okay, this is not the video I thought I would be making today. Nothing bad, nothing, tragic has happened, nothing that, I'm outraged about, I know, unusual. And this is a video in which I'm almost completely winging it. So I'm going to tell you up front that I am just working from memory here, and I'm liable to make historical and literary mistakes, so please feel free to correct those in the comment section down below. But I wanted to talk about this topic of generational kind of shifts or changes that take place in literature or in writing or fiction, or whichever term you want to apply to that. And this, of course, was inspired by my recent reading of Normal People by Sally Rooney and my posting of an old man review of it, and the great responses and comments I got. I said many times on my BookTube channel, the thing I like best is making a video and then people being kind enough to explain things to me or talk about the video or talk about things in the video in the comment section. I think that the comments so far on my review of Normal People have been has been the best comment section that I've had of any response to any video I've done. Now that may be selling some other shorts, but like I said, I'm working from memory. And a number of, I'm just going to call you younger booktubers, younger than me, I'll think most of them are in their 20s, have left incredibly thoughtful comments explaining things to me, explaining or trying to explain why Sally Rooney's writing resonates with them, why they think it resonates with people that generation. And in the process of reading all those things and trying to think, was my reaction to Normal People really, for as much as I tried to joke about it, was it really an old person reaction? Was I really reacting to it as an older person who just didn't get why this story or why Sally Rooney's writing seemed to resonate? And so I want to thank all the young booktubers and all the booktubers in general who commented on the video, because it kind of made me think about something which, maybe it's occurred to all the rest of you before. There have been these moments in time in which these generational shifts have taken place. And it kind of bothers me that I didn't necessarily or haven't necessarily recognized, and maybe I'm not, maybe it's not true, that maybe Sally Rooney is a reaction to the times in which we live. Literature, fiction does reflect the times in which people live, and younger authors, we shouldn't be surprised, I shouldn't be surprised, reflect those changes in their work and in their writing, and that may then resonate with people of that generation. Of course, as somebody who has spent a long time reading the early 20th century modernists, mainly focusing on Americans, but others, this should have occurred to me before. That books, like The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, and I brought up The Great Gatsby because I saw that A.J. Dunn did a review of The Great Gatsby on their channel today, and that's probably the light bulb moment. The books like The Sun Also Rises, The Great Gatsby, I read The Beautiful and the Damned, finishing off the last Fitzgerald novel I hadn't read. Books like that, written by an author of Fitzgerald's age or Hemingway's age, were necessarily reacting to the way they saw the world in the 1920s as young people. It's important to remember that Gertrude Stein famously referred to them as the lost generation, and they were reacting to the real upheaval of World War I. That World War I wasn't just didn't just cause this break in young people's faith in society and the world and the future and morals and values and all those kind of things that have been taught because it was a war. It was because it was a horrible war in which technology, which they had come to see, or which people believed was going to solve mankind's problem, was used to nightmarish ends to destroy human life, to reduce the value of human life on the battlefield, to create one of the worst combat war situations that at least most people have known about. And that really kind of broke the young generation's faith, perhaps in the future, and perhaps in what they had been taught, and caused them to look for a new way to live, and new values and new ideas, and to challenge those old ideas. That was repeated again in the late 1940s and 1950s by the Beat Generation writers. And you can think whatever you want to about them as writers or as people, but there's no doubt that Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and others were also reflecting this kind of moment of societal upheaval in which young people begin to rebel against the values they saw emerging in the late 1940s and 50s, those Cold War values, those the concerns for the first time really in world history, concerns about the ability of mankind to eliminate life on Earth through the use of nuclear weapons, the rampant consumerism and conformity of the 1950s. That is what the Beat Generation writers were reacting against, not just in their work, Jack Kerouac, drugs, no job, free love kind of thing, embracing of Eastern religious ideas, etc. Not just, in terms of their work, but also in terms of the way in which they lived their lives, that they saw what was happening around them as a negative, just as the Lost Generation writers saw World War I as this huge negative, which kind of broke their faith in the values of society. Beat Generation writers said, if all our lives are about is consuming things, buying cars, living in similar houses, all dressing the same way, all listening to the same music until eventually we're all killed in a nuclear war, then what's the point of living by those values? Let's do something different. And the Beat Generation is incredibly important to inspiring, for good or for bad, a lot of the counterculture movements of the 1960s and their embrace of what in the 60s would have been referred to as free love and drug use and countercultural ways of dressing, etc. That those things were, really in lots of ways, a lot of the cultural things there had been foreshadowed by the beatniks of the 1950s. So, in reading the comments from young people and other people in the comment section of my video about Sally Rooney, it occurred to me that what the young people who were more or less saying, Sally Rooney, and her writing speaks to me in some way, is what they were saying is that she seems to have captured this kind of moment in which young people are increasingly cynical, I would say, about their future, about relationships. That they live in a world in which institutions like marriage and democracy seem to be falling apart, and what they've been taught about the progress of Western civilization away from hate and racism is being challenged, and they're seeing a resurgence of those things, the emergence of authoritarianism, and then the fact that they really have experienced life in a way different than people like me, because they've grown up in a world in which the internet and social media is ever present in their lives, and because it's so easy for people to fake who they are on social media, I don't know if you accept that this is who I am when you're watching my channel. I hope you do, and I hope this is who I genuinely am. But there's no real way of knowing that, and the ability to fake images and videos, that has caused them to question, a lot of things, and I think created this kind of pervasive, cynicism may be too harsh a word for it, this kind of pervasive feeling that what they've been taught isn't working out. That what they've been taught about getting an education, getting ahead, owning a home, making a life for themselves doesn't seem to be working out. And I think what we see then is that generation of young people is doing a lot of questioning, and it's possible that Sally Rooney then speaks to younger readers and older who see this kind of generational shift in a way which I didn't see it, and for whom her writing and her characters and the situations resonate, in which they say, well, yes, I understand that, and maybe they understand that in a way that I don't, because that's not the America, that's not the Western civilization world in which I grew up. And it's also possible, since in all three of the cases I've talked about here, with the Lost Generation and the Beatnik Generation and then Sally Rooney, it's also possible that one reason why critics like me and others may point out what we believe to be are flaws in their writing, or flaws in their plot making, etc. It's also possible that there is a generational shift in ideas about plotting and writing and what's good writing and bad writing that that older generation people may be missing out on by trying to apply old standards. The same kind of things, that I think people say about younger writers' work today was probably said about Hemingway's style and Fitzgerald and his topics, and I know those things were said about Kerouac, and they still are, about them not being particularly good writers, and I know those things are said about Sally Rooney as well. Anyway, I'm not sure any of that made sense. So maybe this is just, kind of a long mea culpa about my approach to Sally Rooney and her novel Normal People. This, by the way, is not me saying that I've changed my opinion about Normal People. My opinion is the same. My evaluation and assessment of the novel is the same. But what I am saying is that perhaps I need to be less dismissive about the idea that it might speak to people whose experience is very different than my own. I might be more open-minded about those who do enjoy Sally Rooney, and maybe, just maybe, I need to read more than one Sally Rooney novel. Anyway, there you go. That was a completely rambly, off-the-cuff, no plans, no written notes, not even the smallest sticky note, a video about kind of generational change and how it's reflected in fiction. I'm not even sure what I'm going to title this thing yet. I hope to have a more conversation in the comment section below. So, I look forward to your comments, and as always, thank you for watching.